phone, opened Twitter, and it just looked like a vortex.
Oh yeah.
There was a very, very strange, like, it was like fragmenting at the edges, you know, like like an actual vortex. And it looked like extremely dark energy. It's hard to describe it in sober wording, but it was, you know, at the time I would have just kind of felt this horrible kind of anxiety looking at it. And I just, I remember, like, when I was a kid, there was this one standout. I mean, it was a small moment, but I remember it very vividly, which is where my friend was really, was one of my best friends, but, you know, I didn't have many friends. I just have like one friend at a time. It was like, you know, like a shop. It was like one in, one out kind of thing. And I just had this day where he just relentlessly took the piss out of me. Right. And he was just being so cruel to me. And I think that when somebody was my only friend, I think they felt they knew they could do that. Right. So just, you know, when I was much younger, like 8 or 9 or something. Anyway, so this kid is I'm just like, oh, I was just feeling terrible. And I go into the other room and I start playing piano. I just get up and I just go and start playing piano. He comes in and just mocks me even harder for coming over to play the piano to like, oh, is this your sad song that you're writing? Because blah, blah, blah. And I remember thinking at the time, yeah, it is the sad song I'm writing because you're taking the piss out of me. It is the sad song. And that just is and always was my my way of, you know, it's like if I became like a pressure cooker emotionally, then the only thing I had, the only outlet that
was
I had
music.
was music. It was the only way I could get it out.
Or if you were like even like a rice cooker, like that was your rice.
That was my rice.
Yeah. That's cool, man. Yeah.
And I learned to make, you know, like a sous chef, like a Japanese sous chef. I learned to make the rice so many times, you know, day in, day out, that eventually I became a
restaurateur.
Like I was going to say Michelin star, but that would be that would be high, you know,
No,
highly self-aggrandizing.
I think that's easy to say, man. I think a master of musical rice.
I got good at rice.
Basically,
to put it simply.
I think I didn't have a lot of feelings as a kid. I didn't have a lot of like comfortable feelings, probably.
Right.
You know, there wasn't a lot of comfort in our home, and there was a lot of question marks and not a lot of information.
Right.
So there wasn't a lot of information. There was a lot of attention to learning. You know, my mom made sure that we were learning.
Like reading and
reading, doing our homework, you know, but always reading. And my mother was an English major.
That's interesting.
So she, you know, knew words, and she would use big words, and she would use words that they would try to kick out of our town. You know, I remember they would come with torches when she'd use certain words. They'd never seen it, you know. They'd be like, she's a witch, you know, she's a whore. And my dad would be like, I wish she was, you know. And so it was like, you know, my mom really probably had one of the best vocabularies in our town.
Right.
But I didn't have much affection for my mother, and that's okay. She didn't have a lot to give. And so I think I probably somewhere in my head thought that, well, if I'm using words, maybe she'll see me, you know, or if I'm, once I started to make people laugh, I'm like, oh man, you can make somebody. I just never knew if I was okay to my mother. I never knew if I was approved of by her. So once
she withheld the approval.
Yeah, I don't even know if she knew she didn't know she was doing it.
No, people sometimes don't. Yeah,
she just had like this kind of emotional kind of autism where she didn't understand that was necessary. And so I think once I saw somebody laugh, it was like, it was like I'm okay for a minute.
Got it.
You know, and so then I think that just became an addiction that was beyond. I didn't have a choice at that point, but
you're just compelled to do it.
It was, because you have to, I think, feel okay at certain points as a human.
Absolutely, yeah. And also all of it is a survival thing. I mean, it's like anything that you had to do, even the things that you're ashamed of, ultimately have to be chalked up to something that got you by, something that kind of helped you survive.
I'm grateful that our arts at least aren't like looked down upon very much by society, because a lot of people, they end up into the dark arts or things that are,
Mm.
you know, more taboo,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just their survival methods, you know.
Mm.
I mean, I look at like strippers and, you know, some sex workers and stuff like that sometimes, like, oh, they're just trying to, you know, express themselves or something.
Well, yeah, I mean, I also it's just a job, isn't it? And I guess I'm not overly educated on the complexities of sex work, but I'd say
I would do a little.
I probably yeah, yeah. Ultimately,
If
it's
it came down to it, to feed your family.
got to do what you got to do. I mean, I felt like I was stuff rather than kind of mythologize them or kind of um, put them on a pedestal, because in order for you to have arrived at that point where you need music as your expression, something had to happen,
Mm.
you know, and something had to make you boil over so much that there was only one way that was going to be, you know, and it just happened to be this. But it's not necessarily the most comfortable life. Not to say it's the worst life. I mean, I'm feel super privileged to do what I do, and I'm very lucky. But I'm also one of the lucky ones. You know, there's millions of musicians who are not rewarded in the same way for basically expressing a lot of pain, and it's not an efficient method of doing it either. Like, I don't really feel that much better after I make a song. If I'm depressed, I'm just depressed. If I'm anxious, I'm just anxious. If I'm sad, I'm just sad. You know, making a song isn't going to fix that. And I had to find other ways eventually. But it felt like, if we were to extend the pressure cooker analogy, it's like through art, I was basically just like letting a little steam out every now and again, but I was never just like turning it off.
Mm.
You know, it's like I wanted to turn it off. I wanted to stop the endless swell of pain and anxiety and depression and stem the flow. And I had to find other ways to do that. And once I did that, I was able to look at music a bit more objectively, and it didn't have to prove everything. It didn't have to be everything all at once. There was less pressure on the songs. I didn't have to like be the biggest artist. I didn't have to like prove myself to the kids at school. I didn't have to prove myself to even myself, you know, or less anyway. I mean, there's always going to be a bit of all of those things.
Yeah.
But there's less pressure on the art.
Wow, that's fascinating. Yeah, because when you identify with it so much, which is what happened.
Took mushrooms one day. We were sort of on a road trip, and we were sitting by a pool, and I think this was the first time I actually ever did them, was during the pandemic. And I remember saying to my friend, I'm not really sure these are doing anything.
Yeah, that's how they sneak you.
Right. And then he goes, well, you've been taking you've been taking photographs of that same flower for the last 2 hours. And I noticed it, and I looked down at my phone, and there was like 400. I was like scrolling through this 400 photographs of this flower. It's a really beautiful flower, but in hindsight, probably the mushrooms had something to do with that. So I just looked down at my phone, opened Twitter, and it just looked like a vortex.
Oh yeah.
There was a very, very strange, like, it was like fragmenting at the edges, you know, like an actual vortex. And it looked like extremely dark energy. It's hard to describe it in sober wording, but it was, you know, at the time I would have just kind of felt this horrible kind of anxiety looking at it. And I just there and then deleted the app and just put the phone down and just got on with my day. And I didn't reinstall it. And there were a couple of other things I did as well. I did it with Instagram. I did it with like a few other, because I just noticed that the phone, and actually the phone itself was like, just looked like it was like charged with horrible, like nebulous, like dark energy, like felt like a black hole basically.
Yeah.
And it felt like it was like drawing me towards it, but not in a good way, like in a way that made me feel like I was dying. So I just thought, no, that's telling me something. This is
right.
You know, I also noticed the way my dog reacts to my phone. very often pulls it away, but also just won't engage with it. He'll only engage with me, and if I'm engaging with it, then he'll just kind of walk off.
Wow. So it's almost like here's a piece of life telling you, hey, man,
Yes.
that's not life.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what's
Very well put.
That's what's interesting about mushrooms, man. It'll give you a little clue. Like I did this ayahuasca treatment and I came home, right? And I cut on like Dateline or some like murder show or something.
Oh wow.
And yeah, it's probably
is that advised? Did your shaman tell you to do that?
I would say unadvised.
Right.
Okay. So I'd say I was working, I was going off script.
Mm.
Do you have another water too, Zach? Do you mind, please, brother?
Oh, thank you.
So I was going off script, but I turned it on, and there was everything in me was like, "Don't you see how bad this is? Someone died, and you're sitting here watching it as like a
wow."
And it wasn't a Dateline episode. It was like a some murder, like investigation,
yeah,
but something that was like really dark.
So it kind of exposes the. Thank you, mate.
Yeah, exposes sometimes like just a level of truth that I think the addictiveness of modern day society that we're not able to feel anymore. And it almost feels like something that you would have felt like a long time ago in like your ancestral like.
Right. If you lived in a more sort of primitive, like back in the day, like more, no technology, no. And it's as if somebody handed it to you then.
Yeah. You'd be like, this is
bad. And goes, when you wake up, you're going to check this and you're going to scroll through all the things that are happening way outside of your group. You're going to check for the opinions of others, and they're going to tell you how you're going to feel today. And you're going to watch a bunch of videos, and you're going to watch a bunch of people have sex. And you're going to like play games on here, and they're not here. They're not in front of you with all these other people. They're not interactions with real people. You're going to play games on this thing, and most of your interaction, you're going to look at this for at least 12 hours a day.
And when you set this down, you're going to feel like there's nothing of you.
When you set it down, you're going to be unsatisfied with what the world is like, because this thing is going to stimulate you so much. If somebody told you that when you had no technology and you'd never seen anything like that before, you would tell them to fuck off immediately. Yeah. Get away from me with that fucking dark magic. I don't want to ever see you again.